What a Sunday. I've just seen Arsenal get knocked out of the FA Cup with a Man United team who were down to 10 men for over an hour. Guys, it's going to be a fun one. I can tell you that Arsenal are out of the FA Cup. Unfortunately, Man United will be progressing. They did win on penalties. We will be going through all of the ins and outs of the game and covering the main themes because I think, from an Arsenal perspective, it goes bigger than just this game. This is just the epitome of a long-standing problem. So looking at the lineups, firstly, as we always do, standard lineups for both teams. There are a couple of rotational players who were brought in for Arsenal, the likes of Jorginho in the midfield with Moreno and Odegaard. In the defence, it was fairly the same. Miles Lewis-Skelly coming back in, Martinelli, Havertz, and Jesus up front, given Arsenal's injury problems. From a Man United perspective, again, back five, which we are now accustomed to. Mazraoui, Dalot, in the wing back positions. Agata and Mainu in the midfield. Fernandez and Garnacho just behind Hoyland. And yeah, both teams look set up for a really good game. Obviously, we know the rivalry, we know the history. And from an Arsenal perspective, after the defeat to Newcastle at home in the Carabao Cup, they were looking to bounce back. The pressure was on the team, the pressure was on Mikel Arteta. And how would they perform? Well, I'll be honest with you. When we got to the half-time break, Arsenal were dominating. Arsenal were dominating a lot, and you can see here as a representation, complete ball domination, the expected chances, the shots on target. Key thing to note here is 26 shots, only 7 on target, compared to 7 shots and 4 on target. Wasteful, not clinical, and not taking their chances, which is how I would sum up Arsenal. If I'm being honest with you, first half again, Arsenal looked good. We will take a quick look at the momentum from the beginning of the game. Arsenal again were at home, they had domination. You would have expected them to do exactly what they were doing, but they weren't closing out the game. Multiple chances for Kai Havertz, multiple chances across the pitch for a number of players, and it brings a lot of concern when it comes to Arsenal not being able to get that first goal, because if they aren't, serious problems. The longer the game goes on and Arsenal don't score, it just creates a bigger chance and confidence for the other team. And Man United took that confidence on a counter attack. Garnacho feeding Bruno Fernandes on the edge of the box. A brilliant finish by Bruno. Raya didn't stand a chance. I didn't actually expect his finish to go there, but it was beautifully pulled off and showed his quality and his technical ability. And that put Arsenal and that put Man United 1-0 up. And it was a pivotal point of the game because a lot changed in that span of time. Firstly, the lot getting sent off for his second yellow card. It was a reckless tackle. There was no need to make that. He needs to be more intelligent in those moments. It's being the FA Cup. The referees say it's final. There were a number of decisions for both sides, Arsenal and Man United, which were a little bit dubious. I do think, again, you have to kind of take your mind out of the Premier League because we do get VAR, and as annoying as it is, you kind of know things are going to get checked or should get checked because that's not always the case. But again, in the FA Cup, for this period of the FA Cup, referee's decision is final. We are going to talk about Arsenal getting back into the game. The red card played a massive part in it. Shortly after the red card, Gabriel scores off the back of a free kick, I believe. Brilliant finish from a centre back and showed his quality once again. He is one of the biggest players for Arsenal. He always shows the heart, the determination that is required to bring them back into these big games. He's the one that shows up, and he showed up very, very well. Talking about the rest of the game, I firstly want to dive into some performances because as Arsenal progressed through the game, the first big moment that happened before we get to extra time and penalties before Man United were able to win was Kai Havertz winning a penalty against Man United. Yes, it was soft in my opinion. It goes back to the referee's decision being final. We did win it. It was taken, and Martin Odegaard missed. And again, less than ideal. I don't think Odegaard's been playing well. This was one of his better performances recently, but again, something is missing. Something is missing, and that something could potentially be Bukayo Saka. But this penalty, from the moment he picked it up, I didn't have the confidence that he was going to slot it away at all. He looks like a player that's not in good form, if I'm being honest with you, and is trying to find his way and battle across any injuries or form or fitness, whatever it may be. But it wasn't a convincing penalty, and it was one that was really saved by Bayendor. Arsenal needed to score that penalty. They were struggling to finish their chances from open play. Number one culprit of that is Kai Havertz. In the main, he actually did play well, but in his finishing, in taking his chances, it wasn't good enough. zero point 0.8 expected goals. He should have put the ball back in the net multiple times. And again, the criticism for Kai is going to be high. Some of it justified, some of it not. But you've been put in a position by your manager who's said this £65 million player, firstly, is my midfielder. Then I realized it's not working. I'm going to play him in the striking position, which is what he came into the league being, or what Chelsea made him to be. And he performs well there. But no, we're going to continue to shift him around in important games like Aston Villa last season or Fulham last season. I think again in this game, I think in this game particularly, it wasn't good enough from Kai, and this is the game where he had to shine. He had to shine, because it's bad enough you had some of the misses against Newcastle, but to compound them against the biggest rivals that we have outside of Tottenham, obviously, is not a good look. And it adds credence to what everyone else has been saying about we need a striker. And I'll be honest with you, Kai Havertz has done decently well since he came into Arsenal, but we need a striker. We needed a striker before he came. We need a striker after he came. And Gabriel Jesus going off after not doing much on the pitch. It looked like it's a serious one for him. ACL injury potentially. Very worrying, to be honest with you. Timber as well. There was another injury potentially there as well. Yeah, not a good look. Raheem Sterling did come off the bench. Not a great performance from him either. Arsenal are seriously lacking attacking talent at the moment. They need to go and invest. They should have already invested. And a lot of these decisions in the transfer market are biting them back right now. You decided to spend the money on Kai Havertz when no one was really looking at him. And I'm not saying it was a bad decision, but if he's your striker, he's your striker. And if he's your striker, he needs to be delivering at moments like that. If he's one of many strikers, when one of your strikers needs to be pulling their weight, and Gabriel Jesus wasn't, Kai Havertz in this game wasn't, and they need to look at themselves. Martinelli, wasteful. Nothing new though. I'm not telling you guys anything that you haven't heard or seen before. Arsenal need to improve. They've needed to improve. They've needed to get better. And we're waiting for them to actually do so in the transfer market, in the system of play. If the system of play stays the same, it can work, but you need clinical finishers. The finishing needs to be consistent. And when it is consistent, Arsenal can win 4-5-0. But when they come up against a low block, when they come up against a team where they need to break them down, their clinical nature really isn't there. They're not able to do those free flowing moves as easily as they would have liked to. And Arsenal have changed. They have changed from the beginning of the Mikel Arteta project, when he was very much, quite robust, did anything they needed to do to win, then a little bit more chaotic. Then now they've gone to more of a control style of play. These are things that need to be looked at in terms of how Arsenal want to progress. The system can be tweaked, can be improved, yes, but you're still creating a number of chances. Even before the red card, Arsenal should have been 1 or 2 nil up. Simply not good enough from them. And Mikel Arteta has to look in the mirror, if I'm being honest with you. This is his team. He's long enough into this project to be judged on his team. These are his players. And things aren't working, like the attacking side of the game, like the creativity side of the game. We have to ask questions. The bench looked weak, very, very weak indeed. And again, you have to look at the recruitment. You have to look at how Arsenal have set themselves up for success this season. And I truly don't believe they've actually done that. From a Man United perspective, again, this will be a very, very positive result. They did lose in the Premier League game. They did bounce back. Again, two good showings from them, to be honest with you, in both games. And now they're going to be looking at how they can progress, harness this form, two good results. And they'll be looking to see how they can progress in the January market. Again, I think a striker should be one of the key things for them. Defensive um, stability is improving, and it's one of the things Amaring brought really well. I'm also thinking more creativity in the midfield. Someone like Ogate Manu who can get the ball and progress it a little bit more for those counter attacks and for those inside forwards that they've got just behind the striker. Again, very disappointing from an Arsenal perspective. A lot to look at, but guys, it's the same story. Not clinical enough. Need to invest in finishers, in people who can put the ball in the back of the net. I think there needs to be a look at how we're progressing, because if this continues and you lose more fans on this journey, then the tide for Arteta can turn really quickly. The tide can turn very, very quickly. So he needs to bounce back. His team needs to bounce back. And they need to look at how they can turn around this form. It will be very interesting because next up for Arsenal is the North London derby. No rest for the wicked. We will see what happens with them. Guys, please make sure to like, subscribe, comment. I want to hear all your thoughts and opinions. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. It's been EDA. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.